Snow fell gently over Washington in the quiet hours of December 2025, and a peculiar fever gripped millions of minds. Prediction markets surged with a question that had haunted America for decades, and odds skyrocketed from 6% to 98% in a matter of hours. $7 million poured into bets on a single outcome. Would the president finally reveal what the government knows about visitors from beyond our world? The year draws to a close now, and the lights of the White House glow steady and silent. No podium announcement ever came, no disclosure materialized, only whispers and speculation and the soft echo of promises left unfulfilled. Hello, I'm Elias Whitaker, your guide through these hidden stories. I've spent years tracing the threads of forgotten histories, walking through dusty archives and speaking with those who guard secrets. And what I've learned is that the most fascinating tales often live in the space between what we're told and what we wonder. Tonight we'll explore one such mystery together. Let the weight of your day dissolve as we settle in. This story examines anticipation, the human need to believe, and a phenomenon that has captivated us for nearly 80 years. Whether disclosure ever arrives or remains forever out of reach, the journey itself reveals something profound about who we are. Adjust your pillow now, let your breath slow, and join me as we walk through the curious case of Trump's anticipated UFO disclosure of 2025, a disclosure that exists as of this quiet December evening only in hope and speculation. Let the night unfold. Picture a podcast studio in September 2024 where Donald Trump sits across from Lex Fridman, and the conversation takes an unexpected turn toward UFO footage and what the Pentagon knows. Fridman asks about releasing classified material, and Trump responds without hesitation in words that would hang in the air like smoke. "Oh yeah, sure, I'll do that. I would do that. I'd love to do it." Simple words, direct and unguarded. I'd love to do it. Trump had danced with the UFO question before, though, back during the 2020 campaign when his own son pressed him on camera about what he knew. The elder Trump leaned back with that familiar glint in his eye and offered this: "I won't talk to you about what I know about it, but it's very interesting. But Roswell's a very interesting place with a lot of people that would like to know what's going on." Roswell, a name that carries weight all on its own, a small New Mexico city of 48,000 souls, forever marked by an incident in the summer of 1947. We'll return there soon enough. The paradox of Donald Trump and extraterrestrial life reveals itself when you listen to what he told podcaster Joe Rogan just a month before the election in October 2024. "It's never been my thing. I have to be honest. I have never been a believer." Not a believer, never his thing, and yet in the same breath weeks later he's saying, "I'd love to do it." January 20th, 2025 brought Trump back to office for his second term, and he arrived carrying a promise he called radical transparency. Within months, the orders came through to release classified files on President Kennedy's assassination, then Martin Luther King Jr.'s, then Robert Kennedy's. Decade-old mysteries unsealed with a signature. The UFO community watched all of this and waited, reasoning that if Trump would declassify those painful chapters of American history, surely the UFO files would follow. This had to be the moment they'd been waiting for. Spring turned to summer and summer to fall, but the files stayed locked away behind classification barriers nobody seemed willing to cross. And that's when something curious began to build in the silence. Saturday evening, December 6th, 2025. Somewhere a person sits at a computer and begins placing bets on Polymarket, a cryptocurrency prediction platform, asking a simple question. Trump declassifies UFO files in 2025? 6%. That's where the odds sat at that moment, barely worth a glance from most traders. But here's the thing. This anonymous person begins buying aggressively, hundreds of dollars turning into thousands, and the odds climb past 7%, then 10, then 20, as the algorithm responds to the money flow. Other traders notice within hours, and more money floods the market. The odds surge to 87% by Sunday morning. Media outlets pick up the story. Twitter erupts with theories, and by Tuesday morning, December 9th, the probability sits at 98%, with over $7 million wagered on a single outcome. UFO researcher and filmmaker Mark Christopher Lee offers this to the Daily Mail. I think someone on the inside close to Trump knows this and has been buying, hence the rise. An insider? Someone who knows, someone with information the rest of us lack. Speculation spirals outward like ripples on dark water as forums light up and YouTube channels dissect every angle. Has the moment finally arrived? And why else would someone risk this much money if they didn't know something real? We need to pause here, though, and take a breath. Let your shoulders drop, because prediction markets, for all their drama, represent exactly that. Predictions and nothing more. These platforms reflect hope and fear, not windows into truth, no matter how compelling the numbers look. The odds can surge to 99% and touch certainty itself, while meaning nothing beyond the psychology of crowds and the movements of money. Analysts quietly noted that betting markets can be swayed by a small group of traders rather than genuine insider knowledge. And maybe this was strategy or politics, or nothing more than a gambler's hunch amplified by the echo chamber of speculation. Mid-December arrived with no announcement from anywhere. The White House stayed silent as it had been all year, and the 98% probability dissolved like morning fog, burned off by sunlight. The hope, though, that yearning for disclosure that remained untouched by reality. Another voice emerged from the shadows while betting odds swirled and captured attention. Dan Farah, a filmmaker who spent years on an investigation that resulted in a documentary titled The Age of Disclosure, released his film in November 2025 with extraordinary claims attached. Farah says he spoke with 34 U.S. government insiders, military personnel, and intelligence community officials, all painting a picture of what he describes as an 80-year global cover-up of non-human intelligence. Bold claims, certainly, extraordinary claims that demand extraordinary evidence. The filmmaker appeared on Joe Rogan's podcast to promote his work, and there, in that long-form conversation format that's become our era's confessional booth, he made a prediction worth examining for the certainty in his words. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens soon after the film comes out. The sitting president has to step to the microphone and say, "Humanity is not alone in the universe. We have recovered technology of non-human origin. So have other nations. There is a high-stakes, secret Cold War race to reverse engineer this technology. We need to win this race." A stunning statement delivered not with hedges like maybe or possibly, but with the weight of conviction, as if the information came from sources too credible to doubt. Farah went further during that podcast, claiming Trump had contemplated basic disclosure during his first term, that Trump has now tasked Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, with investigating the UAP phenomenon, that insiders revealed over $1 trillion has been poured into reverse engineering recovered craft, that multiple contact events have occurred between the U.S. military and non-human entities, face-to-face encounters that went unreported to the public. He even claimed the government conducted nuclear weapon tests specifically to down UFOs after realizing that atomic detonations create a ripple effect that can disable these craft. Take a deep breath and let these claims wash over you without grasping them too tightly. A documentary filmmaker making claims, no matter how detailed and no matter how many sources he references, doesn't equal verified evidence that can stand up to scrutiny. Entertainment Weekly publicizes the film, the prediction gets made. But as of this December evening, no president has stepped to any microphone with the announcement Farah described. The film arrived in theaters and on streaming platforms. The president remained silent about aliens, and we find ourselves, as always, left with questions whispered into the darkness. Understanding this moment, this fever of anticipation that gripped 2025, requires going back 2 years to July 26, 2023, to a hearing room in Washington, where the House Oversight Committee convened to hear testimony about unidentified anomalous phenomena. 2 of the 3 witnesses sitting at the table were former Navy pilots who had encountered strange objects during their military service. But the 3rd witness was someone different. David Grusch, a 36-year-old decorated former combat officer from Afghanistan, sat before Congress with credentials that demanded attention. Grusch had worked as an intelligence professional at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency and the National Reconnaissance Office, and from 2019 to 2021, he served as the representative to the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, the Pentagon's official UFO investigation team. This wasn't some random civilian spinning theories from a basement somewhere. This was someone who had worked inside the system with high-level security clearances and access to classified programs that most Americans will never even know exist. Under oath before Congress, David Grusch made extraordinary claims that would reverberate through the UFO community for years. He testified that the United States possesses non-human spacecraft, not just one, but quite a number in his words, and he alleged the existence of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program hidden from public oversight. When briefed by certain individuals about what he called malevolent events, Grusch learned that human beings may have been harmed by non-human intelligence in incidents the government never disclosed. Someone asked him directly if the government has recovered materials from crashed alien vehicles, and Grusch said yes. Another person asked if biologics, biological remains of any kind, had been recovered from crash sites, and he answered with two words that made the room fall silent. Non-human biologics. Those words entered the Congressional record that day and changed the conversation forever. Grusch explained that over 40 witnesses, people with long-standing track records of legitimacy and service to the country, had provided him with information and documentation pointing to programs hidden even from congressional oversight. He described being shown proof, given access to materials, and connecting dots that revealed a pattern of secrecy. The Intelligence Community Inspector General reviewed what Grusch brought forward and found his claims credible and urgent, a determination that carries significant weight. Senator Marco Rubio, Vice Chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, confirmed that multiple people with first-hand knowledge had come forward to his office as well. Senator Chuck Schumer sponsored legislation with bipartisan support based on the premise that such programs might actually exist. And yet, here's what came after. August 2023 arrived just weeks after Grusch's testimony, and medical records suddenly appeared revealing that he'd been hospitalized for PTSD and depression back in 2014 and 2018. Grusch claimed the leak was retaliation, an attempt to discredit him by making his mental health struggles public, and he filed a lawsuit seeking $2.5 million from the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office for allegedly releasing his private information illegally. The Pentagon issued a flat denial, stating they possessed no verifiable information to substantiate any of Grusch's claims about programs involving the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials. Who deserves belief in this situation, the whistleblower with security clearances or the institution he accuses of hiding the truth? That's a question with no easy answer, and one we're not required to solve tonight, so just let it rest there in the space between belief and skepticism, where so many uncomfortable truths live. What matters for understanding 2025 is this. Grusch's testimony electrified the UFO community and gave substance to decades of speculation. His presence before Congress with his credentials and his certainty set the stage for the anticipation that would build throughout the year. If a credible insider says it's real, if Congress takes it seriously enough for hearings, if prediction markets surge with millions wagered, surely something must be true underneath all the smoke. Surely. The Pentagon quietly went about its work while filmmakers made documentaries and whistleblowers testified, and betting markets surged with speculation. Congress mandated the creation of a new office in 2022 under the Biden administration, calling it the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO for short. The mission was clear: investigate unidentified anomalous phenomena across air, sea, space, and even transmedia objects that seem to move between domains in ways current technology can't explain. John Koslowski runs the office now, a mathematician and engineer by training. By all accounts, a careful and methodical thinker who approaches the work with scientific rigor. AARO has been releasing reports throughout 2024 and into 2025, and those reports tell a very different story than the one whistleblowers and filmmakers describe. March 2024 brought a comprehensive historical review of U.S. government involvement with UAPs, examining records that date back to 1945 and searching for evidence of the extraordinary claims being made. The conclusion appeared plainly in the executive summary. AARO found no evidence that any U.S. government investigation, academic-sponsored research, or official review panel has confirmed that any sighting of a UAP represented extraterrestrial technology. Let that sentence rest in your mind for a moment. No evidence from any investigation, not from any review panel at any level of classification. The report continued. All investigative efforts at all levels of classification concluded that most sightings were ordinary objects and phenomena and the result of misidentification. Misidentification, weather balloons, drones, atmospheric phenomena, creating illusions that trained observers interpreted as anomalous. The report acknowledged that many cases remain unsolved, but attributed this to lack of quality data rather than alien origin. February 2025 brought another AARO analysis, this time examining the famous Go Fast video captured by Navy pilots in 2015, showing what appeared to be a fast-moving object skimming just above the ocean surface. UFO advocates had held up this footage for years as compelling evidence of anomalous craft with capabilities beyond human technology. AARO's conclusion dismantled the mystery piece by piece. The object was actually at 13,000 feet, not near the ocean surface as observers had assumed, and its speed fell somewhere between 5 and 92 miles per hour, perfectly consistent with a balloon moving with the wind at that altitude. The apparent high speed was an optical illusion called motion parallax, the same effect that makes telephone poles appear to zoom past your car window when you're moving fast, even though the poles aren't moving at all. No anomalous flight characteristics, just physics and perception playing tricks on highly trained observers. John Koslowski spoke to ABC News in June 2025 with a tone that remained measured and professional throughout the interview. "We're trying to get as much of the raw evidence out as we can without putting our partners' equities at risk," he explained, describing how the office had hired additional personnel and was investing in automated software to redact sensitive information from classified videos before release. They wanted transparency, but had to balance that against legitimate national security concerns. The transparency they offered disappointed those hoping for alien revelations, though, because case after case brought explanation after explanation: balloons, drones, sensor artifacts, atmospheric phenomena, all ordinary, once the analysis was complete. AARO's portfolio held more than 1,600 UAP reports as of November 2024, and the vast majority turned ordinary under investigation. Critics accused the office of being hobbled by staffing shortfalls, bogged down by bureaucratic confusion, mired in excessive secrecy, that prevented real disclosure. Whistleblowers continued insisting the government was hiding evidence of non-human intelligence, that AARO was either incompetent or complicit in the cover-up. Sean Kirkpatrick, AARO's former director, wrote in Scientific American that critics hadn't provided any verifiable evidence to support their extraordinary claims. He called the situation a self-licking ice cream cone, a system that perpetuates its own existence without producing meaningful results, just generating more questions and more calls for investigation in an endless loop. Two narratives running parallel now, one about cover-up and hidden truth, the other about careful investigation, finding mundane answers where people wanted to find aliens. The American public sits between them, trying to sleep soundly while wondering which story to believe. Understanding why this question grips us so deeply requires traveling back 78 years to a ranch in New Mexico, to a summer storm, to debris scattered across dry earth under a blazing sun. Early July 1947, the world just 2 years past the end of the Second World War, the Cold War beginning to take shape, America and the Soviet Union eyeing each other with suspicion. Strange things were being seen in the skies above the American Southwest. June 24th brought pilot Kenneth Arnold flying over the Cascade Mountains when he spotted 9 crescent-shaped objects moving in formation, and he described their movement as being like a saucer would if you skipped it over water. The media coined a phrase from his description: flying saucer. Reports multiplied fast after that, 16 or more alleged sightings between May and July, the entire nation gripped by flying disc fever. Then rancher W.W. Brazel, his friends called him Mac, rode out to check on his sheep after a violent thunderstorm and found something scattered across his property near Corona, New Mexico, that puzzled him. Rubber strips, tin foil, thick paper, pieces of something that didn't make immediate sense. He'd heard about flying saucers by then, everyone had, and maybe this was one of those things people kept reporting. Brazel brought some of the material to Sheriff George Wilcox in Roswell, and the sheriff contacted Colonel William Blanchard, commanding officer of the Roswell Army Airfield. This wasn't just any military base. This was home to the 509th Bomb Group, the only atomic bomb squadron anywhere in the world at that time. July 8, 1947, brought a press release issued by Lieutenant Walter Haut, the public information officer, under direct orders from Colonel Blanchard. The statement was remarkable in its directness. The intelligence office of the 509th Bomb Group had gained possession of a flying disc through the cooperation of a local rancher and the sheriff's office. A flying disc officially announced by the military, not speculation or rumor, but an actual press release. News exploded across the world within hours. Roswell had captured a flying saucer. Aliens had crashed in the desert. Humanity had made contact. The next day, though, everything changed. General Roger Ramey held a press conference at Fort Worth Army Airfield, where photographs were taken showing him and his officers examining debris spread across the floor. The new explanation came swift and certain. It was a weather balloon with a radar reflector, nothing more exotic than that. Just a weather balloon, nothing to see here. Everyone calm down and move along. And that's exactly what the public did for 30 years. The story faded from newspapers and disappeared from conversation, forgotten as a brief moment of excitement explained away by the military. Until 1978, when nuclear physicist Stanton Friedman heard a rumor about a retired military officer claiming the weather balloon story had been a cover-up. That officer's name was Jesse Marcel, the same intelligence officer who had originally investigated the debris back in 1947. Marcel told Friedman the weather balloon explanation was false, that the photos had been staged and the debris switched, that what he'd handled that day was extraterrestrial, and he'd known it even then. Other witnesses came forward after Marcel broke his silence. Ranchers who remembered the incident, military personnel stationed at Roswell, some claiming bodies had been recovered, small humanoid figures with large heads. The story grew layer upon layer as memories surfaced and testimony accumulated. 1994 brought pressure from Congress, forcing the Air Force to release a report that finally admitted the weather balloon story had been a lie, but not the lie UFO believers had hoped to hear. The truth, according to the Air Force, was Project Mogul, a top-secret program using high-altitude balloons equipped with sensors designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests. These balloons floated in the stratosphere, listening for the acoustic signatures of atomic detonations, and one of them, Flight Number 4, launched on June 4, 1947, had been lost. The debris Mac Brazel found matched the materials used in Project Mogul. Balsa wood frames, metallic foil, rubber, all consistent with classified spy balloon construction. The flying disc had been a classified spy balloon all along. A 1997 follow-up report tackled the alien bodies question by suggesting witnesses had conflated different events across time. Crash test dummies used in parachute tests during the 1950s and injured airmen from an unrelated accident, maybe even bodies from a plane crash. All these memories merged together in witnesses' minds, creating false recollections of alien corpses. Skeptics considered the case closed after those reports came out, but believers saw just another layer of cover-up, another official story designed to explain away the truth. Roswell, population 48,000, eventually embraced its legacy instead of running from it. The International UFO Museum and Research Center opened in 1992. An annual UFO festival began in 1996, and tourists come from around the world now to walk the streets where they believe the government first touched alien technology. 78 years later, the name Roswell still carries power and still whispers of secrets buried beneath official explanations. When Trump told his son that Roswell was a very interesting place with a lot of people that would like to know what's going on, he was tapping into that legacy, that shadow cast across decades. Roswell is more than a town now. It's a symbol representing a story about trust broken and truths hidden, about the space between what we're told and what we suspect. And that space, dear listener, is where hope for disclosure lives and breathes. June 2025 brought something remarkable just as anticipation for Trump's potential disclosure was building toward its peak. The Wall Street Journal published a revelation that, in its own way, carried as much significance as any UFO footage could ever hold. The Pentagon, the report revealed in careful detail, had deliberately spread false UFO stories for decades. Not accidentally through confusion or misidentification, but deliberately as a matter of policy. Whenever classified weapons programs needed protection from Soviet intelligence during the Cold War, or even from curious American citizens who lived near test sites, the military would encourage UFO rumors and let the myths grow. Better to have people thinking they saw alien spacecraft than to have them understanding the nature of stealth technology or electromagnetic pulse testing. One specific example from the 1980s tells the story perfectly. An Air Force colonel, acting under official orders, handed fake photographs of flying saucers to a bar owner near Area 51, F-117. Nighthawk stealth jets were being tested at the secret Nevada base at that time, and spreading UFO stories provided better cover than any security fence could offer. The Wall Street Journal report detailed something even stranger, though, a practice called Yankee Blue that ran from the 1980s until 2023, when the Pentagon finally banned it. New Air Force recruits were subjected to elaborate fake briefings about a fictional alien investigation program, told secrets and sworn to secrecy with strict gag orders that made the whole thing feel real. It was hazing ultimately, a psychological test, but many of these personnel believed the story for years, and some still believe it today. Think about what this means for a moment. Hundreds, maybe thousands of military personnel over 40 years were told as part of their official service that the government had secret alien programs. They were lied to intentionally, given false memories and false beliefs by the very institution they served. How many whistleblowers might be sincere people truly believing what they were told, while actually being victims of institutional deception designed to test their loyalty or confuse potential spies? Sean Kirkpatrick, AARO's first director, told the Wall Street Journal that many popular conspiracy theories can be traced directly back to these disinformation efforts. The government wasn't hiding alien technology at all. It was hiding the fact that it had been hiding conventional technology behind alien myths for decades. A cover-up of a cover-up, layers within layers, making truth impossible to extract from fiction. Robert Salas, a former Air Force captain, had claimed for years that a UFO disabled 10 nuclear warheads at a Montana missile silo in 1967, and the story became legendary in UFO circles as proof of alien intervention. The 2025 report revealed that a classified electromagnetic pulse test had been responsible for the incident, and military personnel at the time were told it was a UFO to maintain secrecy around the EMP program. This revelation should have shaken the UFO community to its foundation, but by that point, belief had become too entrenched to dislodge. For every debunking, another theory emerged. Maybe the disinformation revelation is itself disinformation. Maybe they're trying to discredit real sightings by admitting to fake ones. Maybe this is just another layer of the cover-up. The hall of mirrors stretched on infinitely in every direction. And somewhere in that hall, President Trump moved quietly through his second term, making no announcements about aliens, releasing no classified UFO files despite all the promises. December 2025 draws to a close now, and we find ourselves here at the end of a year filled with anticipation that never materialized into anything concrete. The betting markets have quieted down, the documentary has been released and discussed and largely forgotten already. Congressional hearings continue, but yield no smoking guns that change the conversation. AARO publishes reports finding conventional explanations for one case after another. Whistleblowers maintain their claims with unshakable conviction. Believers believe what they've always believed. Skeptics doubt what they've always doubted. And Trump stays silent on the subject. Those promises made on podcasts, "I'd love to do it, and I would do that," remain unfulfilled as the year ends. The radical transparency that declassified assassination files and unsealed historical secrets hasn't extended to the UFO phenomenon. Tulsi Gabbard, if she truly is investigating as Dan Farah claimed, has announced nothing to the public. The disclosure that was supposed to reshape human understanding of our place in the universe, the announcement that prediction markets gave a 98% probability of happening, the revelation that filmmakers promised was imminent, none of it came to pass. Maybe it never will. Or maybe, and this is worth considering as you drift toward sleep, maybe the story itself is the disclosure we were meant to receive. What have we learned this year? That human hunger for mystery runs profound and deep, that we construct elaborate narratives to make sense of the unknown, that governments have indeed used UFO mythology as a tool of deception when it served their interests. We've learned that sincere people can be sincerely wrong, that evidence is elusive and truth is slippery, that the space between official statements and actual reality contains more questions than answers. We've learned that a former president can tease revelation without ever delivering it, that betting markets measure hope more accurately than they measure reality, that Congress can hold hearings producing more questions than closure. Luis Elizondo, a former Pentagon official who has become a prominent voice in the UFO community, said in May 2025 that the Trump administration believes America can handle the truth. He claimed it's been 80 years of suppression and misinformation, but now, finally, the government realizes Americans are ready for what they've been hiding. But what are we really asking for when we demand truth? Are we asking for objective facts, or are we asking for validation of what we already want to believe? Nick Pope, who investigated UFOs for the UK Ministry of Defense for years, called Trump's potential disclosure a perfect storm, describing a maverick president in his second term not up for re-election and potentially willing to push back against what conspiracy theorists call the deep state. But filmmaker Simon Holland told reporters he doesn't believe disclosure will ever happen, asking the reasonable question, why would the very folk who invented the term top secret reveal anything that might be a military advantage? Edward Snowden, the intelligence whistleblower who revealed actual government secrets about mass surveillance programs and paid for it with exile, warned back in 2023 that UFO controversies are often engineered to distract from real scandals. "I wish it were aliens," he said, "but usually it's just politics and misdirection doing what politics and misdirection do best." So what is the truth about Trump's UFO disclosure of 2025? The truth, dear listener, is that there has been no disclosure at all. Only the anticipation of disclosure, only the story of people hoping and believing and waiting for something that never arrived. And that story, that beautiful and frustrating and deeply human story, might be all we ever get in the end. As you lie here in the darkness, letting these thoughts wash over you like gentle waves, consider something worth holding on to. We live in an age of unprecedented access to information, where we can see images from the surface of Mars and detect gravitational waves from colliding black holes and sequence the human genome. And yet, mystery persists in the spaces between all that knowledge. We can accomplish extraordinary things with science and technology, and still we wonder if we're alone. That wondering isn't weakness or foolishness, it's what makes us human. The government may or may not possess extraordinary secrets hidden in classified vaults. Donald Trump may or may not know more than he's saying, but what's undeniable is that we collectively need these mysteries to remain unsolved. We need stories of hidden truths waiting to be revealed. We need to believe there's more to existence than what we can see and measure and explain. Roswell happened 78 years ago, and we're still talking about it, not because the evidence is compelling. It really isn't when you examine it honestly, but because the story resonates at a level deeper than facts. The story represents something larger: our relationship with authority, with truth, with the vast unknown that surrounds us on all sides. Trump's non-disclosure of 2025 may someday join that pantheon of UFO mythology. Future generations might wonder why, in this particular year, prediction markets surged and documentaries promised revelation, and millions of people waited for an announcement that never came. They might puzzle over why nothing materialized from all that anticipation. Or maybe, and I offer this as a gentle thought as sleep approaches, maybe something did come of it after all. Maybe in the discussion itself, in the questioning, in the persistent human refusal to simply accept official narratives without pushing back. There's a kind of disclosure happening right now, a disclosure not of alien technology, but of who we are as a species, curious and skeptical and hopeful all at once. The lights in the White House still glow tonight as the president sleeps in his residence, holding whatever knowledge he holds close. AARO continues its investigations into the next year. Congressional hearings will be scheduled and held. The UFO community will keep pushing for transparency. Skeptics will keep demanding verifiable evidence. And somewhere on a ranch in New Mexico, the desert wind blows across land where debris once fell, carrying stories that refuse to settle into the ground. This is the mystery, dear friend, not whether aliens exist, but why we so desperately need them to exist. What void their existence would fill in our understanding, what questions their arrival would answer about our place in the universe. For tonight, let those questions rest easy in your mind. You've traveled with me through this labyrinth of claims and counterclaims, through promises and silences, through hope and skepticism, and you've earned your rest now. Remember, in the absence of certainty, we find imagination. In the space between truth and belief, we find stories. And in stories, we find comfort that facts alone can never provide. Trump's disclosure may never come, or it might arrive tomorrow morning with a press conference nobody saw coming. Either way, you are here now, breathing quietly, connected to millions of others who have looked up at the night sky and wondered the same questions. That connection, that shared wonder, is real and tangible. More real, perhaps, than any government secret could ever be. Rest well knowing that the universe keeps its mysteries, and that's perfectly fine. Let your mind release its grip on answers and drift into the place where questions dissolve and only peace remains. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'm Elias Whitaker, and I'll be here again soon with another story to ease your way into sleep. Until then, let the darkness be gentle. Let the unknown be a friend rather than a fear. And sleep deeply, knowing that whether we're alone in the universe or not, in this moment, you're exactly where you need to be.